Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes. It is Wednesday, the 25th of September 2024, and day 4 of the last day of the Labour Party conference here in Liverpool. All these people behind me are frozen in stasis, frozen in time, but it's okay. It's okay. They're safe. They're safe. So big shout out to everyone in the chat. Thank you very much for joining us. If you would like to subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and then you can join the chat as well. But please be respectful. Not just to like me and all the people who run the show here, but also to each other. If I see anyone bullying or belittling anyone, they will be muted and you won't be able to comment anymore. You can still watch, you just won't be able to do anything about it. So please don't do that. Okay, so big shout out to Siskid Edge in there. We've got Benjamin, we've got Lucy Willis, we've got Frank Riley, we've got Colin Baker in there, we've got Sonic Shadow, Simon Smith, we've got Scott, we've got Jane, Johan. Hello, everybody. Hello. Johan is saying, looking dapper again. Well, you know, you gotta scrub up because otherwise no one takes you seriously. But it's like having a regional accent. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about Keir Starmer's speech yesterday and what he talked about and what he didn't talk about. Thankfully, there was only one heckler who was shut out. The main takeaway from the speech for most people is the fact that Keir Starmer said the word sausages when he meant hostages. He talked about releasing the sausages. Not the hostage, and he corrected it to hostages. And we were watching in the Overflow auditorium, so we were watching on a big screen, and everyone was like looking at each other, going, "Did he just say sausages? Did he just say?" And the thing is, like, this is like the most important and critical thing that's going on in the world right now in a lot of ways. The Middle East is on the brink of war. People in not just Gaza now, but in Lebanon are being massacred, living in fear of their lives. And yet, the worst possible time to make a gaffe, to say the wrong word. At least he corrected it, but my God. Anyway, let's... Proninator, thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. That is very kind of you. Morning, Graham. Sent you a DM on Discord yesterday. If you get the chance to look it out, also looking very stylish. He's going, oh, thank you, Proninator. You're too kind. I will try and check that out. I haven't been on... I haven't been on the Discord thing as much as I should have over the last few weeks, so I will rectify that when I get back to Durham. Okay, so the first oh God, hang on. Oh, I've lost my screen. So first of all, the tenor of the whole speech, and let's just talk about, like, I often do this and it annoys the hell out of my girlfriend, so I'll do it to you. When I watch a movie and I'm not particularly happy with the way it ends up or what a particular character arc is or whatever, I will bore the person next to me incessantly about, like, what I would have done if I was the scriptwriter, if I was the director, if I was the producer of that film. I'll say, no, we're going to go this in a slightly different direction. Now, sometimes I watch a movie and go, that was pretty perfect, I couldn't do a better job. But half the time I watch a movie, I go, it was okay, but here's what they could have done. Here's what they could have won. I'm going to do this with Keir Starmer's speech. We have just seen the biggest landslide victory in history. I mean, coming from 80 seats down in 2019 to an incredible tally of over 400 Labour MPs. There's over 400 Labour MPs now. There's only 121 Tories left. That is just an absolute decimation of the Tory party. And look, I know that the Labour voter base is very wide but very shallow, and that could flip in the next election. It is a precarious landslide, if you could say. Well, I suppose all landslides are kind of precarious if you live under one. But the way that Labour are sort of handling this conference, and I said this the other day, it's a bit weird that it seems a bit muted. There's not the jubilation that you would expect, and I think this is from the top down because that's the way Keir Starmer is. He's quite a dour individual. He reminds me. I don't know if you ever watched the TV show Luther with Idris Elba, but just the way he was always so disappointed with his with Alice, played by Ruth Wilson, who was kind of like a serial killer, maybe, who he was kind of in love with, and he'd just go around going, "Oh, Alice." Oh, Alice. Every time she did something awful, like murder someone, she'd say, "Oh, Alice." And that's the way I see Keir Starmer. He's just there going, "Oh, oh, what we got? He's looking at the mountain that we have to climb together as a nation just to get back on our feet after the cruelty, sadism, and decimation of the economy that has come through over the last 14 years of Tory misrule, Tory incompetence, Tory cruelty. And he's just, he's not allowed himself, and he's not really, and as an extension, he's not really allowed the conference to revel in the fact that we've had this amazing, remarkable turnaround. And I wish they had. I wish they'd lent that into that. I would have started with just going on about how boss it was that there was so many MPs, Labour MPs now, a number of women MPs, just what Labour have done, what their achievements have been up to this point. Then I would have done, which he did. He talked about what Labour have achieved already with things like bringing up the National Wealth Fund, getting rid of the ban on onshore wind farms, and bringing in. They're going to be bringing in the right to workers' rights, but also the Hillsborough Law, which was in the King's Speech, which gives this duty of candour to public officials. So, like, they're not allowed to lie. If their boss says, I want you to lie and cover up this major crime that we've committed, they have a duty not to do that in law. It's about bloody time that we had this, because we can't have another Hillsborough. We can't have another Grenfell. We can't have another contaminated blood scandal. We can't have another post office scandal. These have all happened because people have lied and covered up for years. For their bosses, usually. The boss goes, don't say anything. They go, okay, no comment. No doing that. You have a duty of candour. You're a public official. That's it. Right. Anyway, so, yeah, blast through that and then get into the hard stuff. So, he did talk about the national renewal and the need for national renewal, which is, you know, a given. But also he lent into the tough decisions and obviously talked about the winter fuel allowance being something that he doesn't want to have to do, but they're going to have to do it. And I don't know how well this goes across with other people. With me, I'm kind of just sitting there going, really, is this the best way to raise that money? Is it really? I understand that you don't want to means test. You don't want to give money to millionaires. You want to means test it. Fine, but there are going to be people who will slip through the cracks. Who will slip through the cracks. I think that the bar is too low. But also, when you means test anything, you have a problem with some people don't get it. I mean, look at benefits as they are. Half of benefits go unclaimed in this country. People just don't know that they can have them. And the Tories have done a great job of shutting down any legal representation for working class people, cutting funding for citizens' advice bureaus, etc. So where do you go for advice? I mean, Martin Lewis is the guy that most people in this country are now going to for financial advice, and he's just one guy in this, and there's a mountain of things that need to, you know, be done. So if you are on a low income, if you're disabled, you're a carer, please get onto Martin's Money Saving Expert website and just have a look at what might be due to you, right, from the state, because you're a citizen of the state, and the state's obligation, its social contract to you as an individual, is to bloody well look after you. I'm not have any of this libertarian, everyone, you know, the sovereign individual. Fuck that. No, that's not true. That's true for rich people who were born rich, spat out their mums into a mountain of money like Jacob Rees-Mogg was. But the rest of us, no. We rely on society, and this is the social contract. Society relies on us. It can't. That's the only way it can work. This idea of, you know, the extreme individualism just does not work. So we talked about it. He talked about the achievements. He talked about the winter fuel cuts. One of the surprises in the speech, which, you know, I'll say surprise, but, you know, it wasn't like completely out of nowhere, but the promise to bring in new social housing rules for veterans. Fantastic. Finally. So at the moment, as far as I'm aware, and you can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong about this, if you are homeless and you are looking for somewhere to live and you're trying to get on the list in any given council, you have to have a connection to that place. So you have to have lived there, or you've got family there, or there's some reason why, which is ridiculous, because it means that there's some places where they have a list a mile long and other places where there's no one on the list. So they're going to make it so you can apply anywhere in the UK. to live, as long as you can, get on that list, because there's only 3 other people on that list, and you'll be able to get a home. And that's brilliant. That is fantastic. Glad they announced that. That was good. But there wasn't much else. There wasn't much else that was like and here's an awesome thing we're going to do. And here's the way I feel like it should have gone. Start off, EA, Labour 1, go on to shit. This is the scale of the challenge we face. And then at the end, give out presents. Like Oprah, a car for you, a car. Obviously, they can't do that, but they can give a lot of people what they want. And there's a lot of things that they can do that aren't that expensive. Brexit impact reports. I mean, this is something that Phil Morehouse talks about a lot on this channel. Exactly what we need. Brexit impacts. It's not going to cost that much to do. Just freaking do it. Levinson 2, which was kind of ruled out yesterday. My God, just do it. It's worth your while, Labour, to get the press under control. We live in a country where two-thirds of the press in this, 2/3 of the media in this country are owned by 3 people. 3 freaking people. Come on. Lord Rothermere, Rupert Murdoch, and the Barclay brother. I mean, what? How is that even legal? I mean, Rupert Murdoch was born a million miles away a million years ago. He lives in bloody America. He's got nothing to do with this country. He's got no connection at all, except he speaks English. That's about it. And yet he has this overwhelming power over the hearts and minds of a good chunk of the British population. So it's something that they could definitely do. And then he talked at the end about his family going to Lake District. He told an amusing story about some woman who didn't recognise him. And then he talked about playing the flute, which is always a bit odd. I don't know. Just no offence to flautists out there. It's just a bit of a weird instrument to, I don't know. It would have been cooler if it was the guitar or the piano. Maybe. I can play the piano. I don't think it's very cool. But yeah, little Richard. Right, okay, so we've got Puninator. Thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Look at that, £10. Thank you, Puninator. That's very kind of you this morning. You're being very kind. Human progress isn't measured by industry. It's measured by the value you place on life, and an unimportant life. A life without privilege. That's what defines an age. That's what defines a species. Very well put. Puninator. You're absolutely right. The way there was a quote, I've forgotten who it was, but someone said, you look at, how a country treats its prisoners, and that tells you, everything you need to know about the country. But I would say, yeah, I mean, you see how the country treats its citizens. Does it look after them? Does it keep them fed and housed? Does it, when things go wrong in life, which they do, is it there for them? Is there a safety net? And all that the ghouls on the right wing want to do is take away the safety net for others, because their attitude is, well, I don't need a safety net. I'll be fine. Whatever happens. I've got a secret bunker I can hide in for many years while you all kill each other on the surface. And then I will re-emerge into the nuclear wasteland and be king of the ashes. What-ho? And you're like, okay, just because you don't need this. And this is goes back to something that I sometimes talk about, where it winds me up a little bit that people have this point of pride that they haven't seen something. I get it in a way, but in another way, I'm like, I would rather someone say what they like rather than I've never seen Game of Thrones. I've never seen Star Wars. I would rather someone watches an episode of Emily in Paris and goes, bloody hell, that was awful, rather than say, well, I've never watched it. Like it's some kind of, big up myself. Aren't I amazing? But the upper class in this country, the neo-aristocrats as I call them, they are very much kind of like, well, I don't need this thing. I've never had handouts. And I'm sitting there going, okay, first of all, that's not a brag, whatever. But secondly, you have had the handouts of all handouts. You had rich parents who could afford for everything that happened. Now, I'm just going to digress a little bit, going off on a little bit of a tangent, going to do with a segue, right? Because I went to a panel yesterday, and it was hosted by Vicky McClure from Line of Duty and her husband. There was an MP there as well, and the woman who runs Nottingham Film and Television Workshop. And they started off by talking about the fact that only 8% of people working in the media are from working class backgrounds. And as anyone who knows, my attitude about all this, my privateschoolmafia.com list, which I implore you to check out, this is something that I find incredibly frustrating. And I made the point in the questions. I said Liverpool really benefited from the New Deal for musicians under the Blair government, in which you could claim the dole and still play gigs. You didn't have to declare every time you played the gig to 3 people and had to reassess your how much income you could get from job seekers allowance. Also, you didn't have to spend all your time seeking jobs. At the moment, it's like 35 hours a week you're supposed to spend looking for jobs each week. And if you don't get a job by X amount of time, they force a job on you. That was the Tories' plan. And I want to see a new deal for creatives, because if you don't have the money to live, you can't be going to auditions. If you don't have a job that is incredibly laid back, I've got to go to an audition this afternoon. Okay, well, see you later. Or, we'll pick this up when you get back. Most jobs aren't like that. They're like, no way, you're not leaving. You've got a job to do. We've got no one to replace you. You're staying here. So they can't go for the interviews. And this is why so many people, it's not just the cliques, it's not just the Nepo babies. It is the fact that if you are a gigging musician, if you are an aspiring actor, director, if you want to be a director, okay, well, you start as an AD or a runner on a feature film. Usually that is like incredibly low pay, like insanely low pay. And it's always being filmed in London because everything's in London, because all the gravity gets pulled towards London, and London's a very expensive place to live. It's a very expensive place to travel around. Well, not as expensive on the buses as up here in Liverpool, but, they get a London allowance, don't they? Yeah, that makes no sense to me either. But this is an important point. Like, we need to have a system that allows people to pursue their creative goals, even if they're working class, right? Maybe especially if they're working class, because as Vicky's husband pointed out at the panel, Oasis, when they got their first record contract, which I think was with Creative Records, was it? Alan McGee, was it? God, that was a long time ago. That was a blast from the past for you. They were all on the dole. They were all on the dole. And this tour next year is going to stimulate, it's going to make £1 billion. It's going to make £1 billion, the tour next year. That's how much money is going to be sloshing around thanks to these lads who were, on the dole when they got their big break. Had they not been able to claim the dole and work at the same time as musicians or as actors or as whatever in the creative industry, the thing is this, right? Even if you are a well-known face of film, TV, whatever, right? There's a chance that you might not get any gigs for like a year or 2 years. And you need something to get by during that time. Now, if you're a A-list Hollywood actor, and there's not that many of them, there's a few dozen A-list Hollywood actors. It's like Premiership footballers. Really, in reality, there's very few of them. That's why they get paid so much. If there was shitloads of them, they wouldn't get paid as much. But there's only a select few people who can manage to carry a film. They'll be fine. They can pick any project they want. They don't necessarily have to go to casting calls. They don't have to, audition because they're a big name. But the vast majority of people who work in the acting profession, they don't have that. They might be doing a theatre production, which, only 100 people can come into the audience. And that's got to be shared. The money, the revenue from that's got to be shared, not just between the actors, but by the people who put on the production. There's so many factors to this. Gigs, right? If you are a band, good luck getting 500 quid to play at a venue, right? And you're a 3-piece band, 500 quid. That's pretty reasonable. If you had one DJ, you would pay them 150 quid for the night, and they'll go, oh yeah, cheers. But probably want more than that. They'll probably want 500 quid. I'll tell you this: when I've done live events in the past and I've had to pay for AV, it's been 500 quid just for someone to let me use the equipment that's there. And then just turn the volume up on the mixing desk. Something I could do. But, 500 quid. But then you're a band, so you get 500 quid. That sounds all right, doesn't it? Yeah, but there's 3 of you. It's fuck all each. If it's 4 of you, it's even less. 5 of you, it's 100 quid each. You're going to spend that getting to the gig. And then you got all your rehearsal time before that, which is unpaid. So, I mean, there's loads of factors that come into this. But I would like to see a new deal for creatives that pushes people from lower income brackets into the creative industries, because I am sick and tired of everything on TV being these smug panel shows where they're like, well, did you know? Oh, yes, darling, yes, I would know. I mean, it's fun for a bit being at a dinner party with posh people who know a lot of things, but it's grating on me after 20 years of non-stop panel shows of posh people, which is everything on the BBC right now, it seems. I'm sick and tired of everyone I see on the TV for an entire day coming from a posh private school. The working class kids who went to comprehensive schools, you just don't see them. Maybe in a few soap operas, but that's about it. You won't see them reading the news. You won't see them fronting up a major BBC drama, usually. And kids can't get in now. You know, and also, when we talk about my issue with Brexit, my big issue with Brexit is the removal of our freedoms to live and work anywhere we want in Europe. And then that's been done to our kids. So our kids now cannot go and live and work anywhere in Europe like they used to be able to. The rich still can, but we can't. And this is another thing of that. They can't hope to be an actor. They can't hope to be a director or a screenwriter or an author even in this country, or be in a band. Name some bands. You know, there's hardly any new bands coming through. If I think of like Wolf Alice, they've been around for about 10 years now. Churches even longer. I'm trying to think of new bands that have an actual band with a singer and a guitarist and a drummer. It's slim pickings. It really is. And the big part of that is because you can only do a band now if you're very, 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 very lucky and very, very talented at the same time, or you were born into money. This is why we are drowning in Mumford and Sons and Coldplay and stuff and Ed Sheeran. Anyway, one of the stories that Vicky McClure told yesterday was that she was allowed in. She got a place in the Italia Conti School of Creative Art or Drama or whatever it's called down in London, but her mum and dad couldn't afford the fees, so she couldn't go. Do you know whose mummy and daddy could afford the fees for that same school? Russell Brand. Fun story. Right, Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much for the £5 super chat there. To an extent, Starmer would have been restricted to what you could say because he couldn't preempt the budget statement. Phil made this point yesterday. You're not allowed to say what's going to be in the budget before the budget because you've got to say it first to Parliament. This was something that the Tories kept on doing. They kept on announcing policies on the radio, on a morning TV show. It's like on TikTok. And it was like, no. And Lindsay Hoyle would often admonish the Tories and say, you're supposed to announce this stuff to the House first, and then you can go on the radio and say, look at what we're doing. But they weren't doing it. They were putting the cart before the horse because they're gobshites. And I guess they can't do that. But I mean, I would have, if I was writing the speech, when I was talking about the gifts at the end, right, as I'll call it, you know, the pudding, as they say on the trawl, I will be very much saying, this is what we're going to do. And this is what we aspire to do over the next 5 years, looking ahead to the next 5 years of this Labour administration. This is the Labour government. This is what we are planning. This is the things we want to put in place. And I would have ended on a strong vision for the end of the decade and say, by the end of the decade, we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the things we want. National renewal. We want people to feel safe. We want people to be happy. You know, that's the big thing for me. I want people to be happy because when people are happy, I'm happy, right? If I see someone who's having a great time, it's why you like going to comedy shows and laughing with other people. It's like why people like going to the cinema with other people. I know some of us don't. Some people don't like going out much. But for those of us who enjoy that kind of thing, the joy of being at a gig and being in the mosh pit and jumping up and down and the glee on people's faces, it's contagious. It really is. But we're not going to get that with Keir Starmer because he's quite a dour MP. Now, PM even. There's a few people who have said that we should. He should have addressed the clothing thing, the free clothes. He just ignored it. I think they should just ignore it. It's just it's a mountain out of a molehill, and all things being equal, I don't care. Gareth T, thank you very much for the super chat. Morning Grey, and disappointed not to hear plans for prisons. However, we are now getting the PPE we need, namely batons and PAVA, only 18 months late. Gareth works in the prison. Thank you very much for the super chat, mate. That's really kind of you. I guess he did mention YIMBYism, which is yes in my backyard. He wanted to make a point about we need prisons. We need more prisons, and we need pylons. We need, over the ground pylons. We can't bury them. It costs too much to the taxpayer. And I completely get that. And I'm very sorry that we have to do this in order to save the freaking human race. We talk about saving the planet will be fine. The planet will last for another 4 billion years. The big problem is we're going to wipe ourselves out very rapidly if we continue down this route of destroying the planet with carbon. One of the reasons why Venus is so hellish, hell on earth, is because of all the carbon. There. Okay, I don't think there's any more super chats come in, but I will read out a few messages. David Peacock, Viv, the likes of the Daily Hill don't care about the pensioners. It's another issue for them to promote their fascism. That's true. Coffee and Wildlife beats TV, says Plum Duff. I would agree with that. Lee Corn said there was a girl from Wythenshawe Council Estate who was a foster child who lived on the street at one point, but just graduated from Oxford, but other graduates were taking the mick. That's something that really boils my urine. Annoying. So it was interesting meeting with Vicky McClure and others. And the night before, after we did our talk, Femi and I went to a talk given by Hugh Grant from the Hacked Off campaign. Also, he's a famous actor, apparently. We share 7 letters of our names. Hi, Hugh. And we went afterwards. We were at the hotel where Hugh was staying. We were in the lobby there, in what's it called, where the bar is or whatever, in the hotel. And I had a good chat with him. Unfortunately, he doesn't do selfies. He doesn't do any selfies, so we couldn't get a photo with Hugh. But I would love Hugh to play Boris Johnson in a dramatisation of Boris Johnson's horrible, disgusting, evil life, evil little life. And I want to, how Breaking Bad was a story of a good man who started doing bad things for good reasons, and then he started doing bad things for bad reasons, and then he just became a bad man doing bad things for bad reasons. Well, in this, I want the character of Boris Johnson, or whatever we call him, to be very similar to the real Boris Johnson, in that he's very affable. You kind of like him. He's funny. You warm to him, but he's a stone cold psychopath. And I want every episode to end on an absolute sting of, oh my God, I can't believe he just did that. Oh my God, I can't believe he just did that. Oh my God, I can't believe he just did that. And then he just goes off and destroys someone else's life, someone else's property, someone else's thing. And in my imagination of what this TV show would be like, it would follow him from school. And in school, he picks on a kid for being working class, the one bursary kid in his posh private school, and he picks on him mercilessly because that's what the posh do. They make you feel absolutely unwanted. And it's no surprise that most working class kids, when you talk to them about going into politics, going into the creative industries, they go, no, but that's not for me. And that's been an idea that's been put into their heads by the neo-aristocracy. It's not for the likes of you. And when you know that there's been one presenter of Newsnight, one in the last 45 years, who actually went to a state school, and that's Emily Maitlis. The best presenter they've ever had, to be honest with you. You see the scale of the discrimination against people who, through no fault of their own, were not born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Stephanie Wilson says, I would bet that the students who were laughing at the last from the streets had a burst second while she had a first. Probably. But also, one of the things that pisses me off about the system at the moment, if you are rich, you go to private school. Private schools don't have to pay tax at the moment. They are going to have to pay VAT. Good. They don't have to be inspected by Ofsted. Safeguarding issue, obviously. They don't have to employ teachers who have a teaching degree. That's right. You don't need a PGCE to work at a private school. You don't need anything. You don't need any qualifications whatsoever. No safeguarding. Teachers could be wrong uns. I don't know. No one checks. Who cares? And they don't have to follow the national curriculum. So whereas the state school kids have to learn about the Romans, even though it's not going to come up in the GCSEs, the private school kids can just learn what they need to pass their GCSEs. for the whole 5 years before going to do their GCSEs. They don't have to learn anything that's not, that's not going to help them get a good grade in their exam. And also, if you're rich, you can afford tutors as well. So, there's a problem with particular subjects, you can afford to get your kid over the line. These are all these things. All these things come together to produce a society in which it is more than ever haves and have-nots. And when I talk about freedom, when I talk about the way that the Brexiteers, all of whom are privately educated, pretty much, I mean, you struggle to name a Brexiteer who didn't go to a posh private school. All of them, they took our freedoms away. Not theirs. Not theirs. They keep those freedoms. And when it comes to, politics, the arts, industry, business, entrepreneurship, they say, no, it's not for you. It's not for you. This is our thing. You just do the plebs. We don't want to hear from you. We don't even want to look at you. We don't want you on our television screens. Ugh, no, please, come on. Let's have some decorum here. And you know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. It's right there in front of us. One of the big steps forward that I've seen this year is the fact that so many people in Labour are not privately educated. So many people in the cabinet are not privately educated. In fact, our PM, you could argue he wasn't privately educated, but then because his school became private while he was there. And he got to stay, basically. So you could look at him as a bursary kid going to the good school. Along with Fatboy Slim. Plum Duff says they may have privilege, but doesn't mean we give in. Plum Duff, no, absolutely. But one of the things that we often talk about on this channel, and I talk about in general, is awareness raising. Like, people just don't know. So the politician who I spoke to at the panel about working class people in the creative arts, creative industries, he came to me afterwards and we had a little chat, and he had never heard of the New Deal for musicians. He might have been a bit younger than me. I mean, he might not have been sort of politically active at that time. But I found it surprising. I found it very surprising that he hadn't even heard of this thing that Labour used to do that really helped the creative arts. If I think back to the early 2000s, you had bands like Franz Ferdinand, the Arctic Monkeys, the Zootons, the Coral, the Dead 60s in Liverpool. Shitloads of bands came out around that time, the Kaiser Chiefs, and a lot of them benefited, not all of them, but a lot of them benefited from the New Deal for musicians. And now look at it, where are the bands? The bands have disappeared, as we've spoken about on this channel before. My mother has just interrupted your live stream to tell her kind of sort of boyfriend she can't commit to him because I'm trans. What? Oh my God. Sorry, Lucy. That's, yeah. I'm sorry. Good on your mum for saying that, because obviously I guess he's come out with some transphobic shit, but I'm sorry, that's something that you have to put up with. Caveat, Emily sounds like she attended public school. Yeah, that's a point. Good point, Nick. Right, I've gone 4 minutes over, and I've got to get back to the conference, and I'm getting the bus in, so it's going to take a while, and it finishes at 12. So I better run. But I just wanted quickly, before I go, to just run through the papers. I'll do this. I promise. I'll be super quick doing this. So we've got the Times there. Brace for the incoming storm, warns Starmer. We've got Keep the Faith and Britain will prosper, urges Starmer. We've got UK willing to back down on new migration demands for all under 30s. They back down. They wanted 4 years, and they might be willing to go for 3 years to live in the UK without a visa. Tough Love is the cover of the Mirror. Marines ready for massive vaccination of Lebanon Brits, which is the awful situation going on in Lebanon right now. Kate back to work to prepare for a Xmas concert. The newspapers, the state will take back control from the increasingly shrill and weird bonkers paper that is the Star. Sorry, the Telegraph. Sorry. I keep getting them mixed up, you see, because the Star's got a story about the Loch Ness Monster, and the Daily Telegraph somehow manages to make a headline that's even more absurd than the Star's Loch Ness Funster. How good is that? The state will take back, and we're going into a communist dictatorship, according to the Telegraph. Oh my God! 10 years to end the zombie apocalypse. That's to do with zombie knives. And then we've got China unleashes aggressive stimulus blitz to battle to hit 5% growth target. And this is about China basically not growing as much as it hoped to. Right, I'm going to get going now. So thank you so much for the super chats. Thanks for the chat. Thanks to everyone who came on Monday night. It was brilliant. It was really good. It was great to see a lot of the old gang there. Again, Steve Bray and his mates were there from the Sodom campaign. It was great to see Femi and Mike Galsworthy. We also had Peter Core there and Richard Corbett, who came to replace Mike as Mike went back down to London. Let it be known that Mike came from London to Liverpool just for that talk. I thought he was coming to the conference, so I was like, "Oh, are you going to be at the? Are you going to come up? Could you do a talk for us?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And it wasn't until he was there. He's like, "No, I've come for this." And I'm like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." So big shout out to Mike Galsworthy, and it was a great debate. It was a fantastic debate. Something that I would like to do more of, not just when there's a conference in town. I will be plotting away how we can make it work, because live events like this, the issue is there are a lot of work to put together, and usually you don't make any money out of it, and if you don't do it right, you can lose money. So I'll give an example. Last year when we did the thing at another venue in Liverpool at the Camp and Furnace, and I don't want to be unfair to them, but I didn't realise when I picked the Camp and Furnace to have our show that I would have to pay for every seat in the venue. I would have to pay like £2 for each seat. And I wanted to make it I wanted to make the thing free. I don't want people to have to pay if they can't pay to come and see us speak. I mean, we're not Oasis. And I was like, what? And like, well, we don't have any seats of our own, so we have to hire them from the company across the road, and they cost £2 each. How many seats do you want? And I'm like, oh no. So yeah. Let this be a warning, team. Anyway, sorry, digressing. So thank you very much to Maureen and Jane and to Lee Corn in there. Lee, thank you for coming along and for helping out, arranging the chairs and then putting them back. Nick is in there as well. Thank you. Gallifreyan Ren with badges and trans pride flags. We've also got Maureen O'Mara and Alan Walker and Callum Baker. Thank you very much. Come to our show tonight at 6 o'clock on Politics Social, where we'll be doing another episode of The Intersection, and Rachel has got an incredibly exciting guest this week to talk to about intersectional issues. And so if you want to join us for that live and join the chat, you can do it. 6 o'clock tonight, 6 till 7. So please join us for that. If you can't, for whatever reason, Phil will be back in the morning with Morning Brew at 9:30. So until then, thank you so much for watching. Give us a like on the way out, as always. And until next time, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.